Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology and the escalation of the coronavirus, COVID-19 in the United States. Now, sadly, as many of you may have heard about, is that there's been obvious proliferation of coronavirus cases in the United States. Dr. Anthony Fauci has even speculated that he really wouldn't be surprised because if we were to start hitting daily totals that could surpass or exceed 100,000 a day. We've had close to 60,000 on I believe it was on July 3rd, as far as the daily total goes, and it's just getting to a point right now where it's really become preposterous. These numbers are getting way out of control, and people that have not taken this seriously previously really need to start taking it more seriously now. I mean, especially we have all this Capricorn energy, you think we would be taking things a little bit more seriously. Transit Jupiter is in Capricorn, you think that could inflate or enlarge seriousness, but we do have it in retrograde along with Pluto right now. I think maybe part of the problem could be is that maybe the transits might actually be in retrograde, might be working to the detriment of this situation. Maybe we're going where it's actually getting hit a point where it's actually getting worse. I mean, that could be a possibility. I mean, you have Neptune and Pluto in retrograde motion right now. And it's interesting, it was like around June 23rd, I believe, transit Neptune had gone retrograde, and it seemed like that's when we started to get a very strong escalation. Around that time, we got more of an escalation of these coronavirus cases in the United States. But the thing about it is, the first thing, look at the United States chart. I'm going with the Sagittarius rising chart. Some people may agree, some may not, as far as that chart for the United States. But the Sag rising chart, I mean, right there, Sagittarius, when you talk about the ascendant in the chart, that's basically the face, the complexion of the chart. That's really the face of the United States is tied in, I mean, with religion, sports, the outdoors. I mean, a lot of people are sports fanatics. I would be considered that I can't really play sports because as I've told people in previous videos, I have irrevocable nerve damage to my arms and I can't engage in it. I used to, but I'm an avid sports fan. And the thing about this is the start of sports in the U.S. that could actually, it might lead to more cases. If you have an NBA player say has it and contacts another player. But the thing about it is people like, I mean, the outdoors being associated with Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising for the U.S. This is I could understand why it's harder in the United States in contrast to a lot of other places to contain or control this situation, because because people are the face of the US. It can be connected with the outdoors. People don't want, I mean, really want to be confined and isolated and pinned down for a protracted period. People want to go outdoors and go and be adventurous and just be involved with what's going on outside, and also being the sports world as well. And also the fact that with the Sagittarius rising energy, that outward energy of the U.S. can be tied in with a lot of freedom and independence. It's really, this is just something where it's become very hard, obviously, for the coronavirus to be contained. And another thing that I noticed in looking at the United States chart, it does have a square from Neptune in Virgo to Mars in Gemini. When you have an aspect like that, it can often indicate energy where one really feels more, I mean, more lethargic, more like daydreaming and fantasizing as opposed to doing. You're talking about Mars in Gemini, which could indicate it could be some issues, physical issues, your injuries, that you just physical issues and problems that could be connected with the lungs and respiratory area. Now this and that of course can be symptoms of the coronavirus. You have the Neptune in Virgo, where the ideals can be connected with work and employment. So you have that square going on. That is where, I mean, that is part of the, I mean, you have a conflict often with that energy, I think, and you're talking, and again, just the Neptune square Mars by itself, regardless of signs, can indicate lethargic energy, where you again you feel more like people might feel more like daydreaming, fantasizing, in contrast to taking action on an issue. And the thing about this is too, we're having the transit Neptune and Pisces squaring the United States natal Mars in Gemini, and that could, what I described before, could be taking place now through transit energy. But as far as where your energy might, it's more, again, could be more about relaxing, more about fantasizing, more about daydreaming, as opposed to actually taking an action on something. Coronavirus, the fact that Neptune is transiting Pisces right now, I mean, that's the indicator of the coronavirus, because Neptune can be connected with diseases, and of course Pisces can be associated with ones that can't be eradicated or cured. You also, sadly, at this time, you have transit Venus is very close proximity to the United States natal Uranus. So this is like that value in freedom and independence in one's communications, and it could be social activities. I mean, this is where you're talking about, and also doing the variety of things that he or she may like to do, going out on short journeys, doing things that involve more communications, and it could often be with the mask off as opposed to actually wearing the mask, unfortunately, which could be a contributing factor to the escalation of the coronavirus COVID-19 in the US at this time as well. The United States also has transit Pluto, making an opposition to the United States natal Mercury in Cancer retrograde. The thing about this is, I mean, you have the retrograde, Mercury in Cancer retrograde, of course, could be more introspective. It's more about, it's really a lot of reviewing as far as the energy goes. But as far as transit Pluto making an opposition to Mercury, this could manifest, I think in this case, as really having a difficult time in terms of maybe researching something deep. It could be just going beyond the surface or what's superficial, and in this case it could be the coronavirus. Pluto can be associated with viruses, and America right now sadly just might be having a hard time formulating that kind of plan to do so. Mercury in Cancer could be very emotional in their thought process. I have Mercury in Cancer natally. I know something about this. Mercury in Cancer can also be about becoming more emotionally involved with people, as opposed to being able to resolve an issue and having difficulty resolving that issue due to that. This could also be playing some role in the fact that you have that opposition from transit Pluto to the natal Mercury in Cancer. It could be playing a role in terms of not being able to go deep into matters and not being able to problem solve and get to the bottom of this this mystery in terms of finding a resolution. Really not really getting, I shouldn't say bottom of this mystery, but well, it really is like a conundrum to the United States as far as trying to resolve it. So in a way, yes, but because Mercury in Cancer energy can of course be becoming so emotionally involved with the people, they are not really, that energy is such where maybe it's difficult to really to go deep into actually solving the problem of the situation. I think that has to do with that opposition from transit Pluto to natal to the United States natal Mercury in Cancer. And the thing about this is you also have transit Jupiter, making an opposition to the United States natal Mercury in Cancer, and that can manifest in some cases as not being as punctilious with details as one would want to be. It could also be the fact that the United States mentality on this in general, I'm not saying everybody, not stereotyping, but just in general, could be so different as opposed to what others are globally right now. That is how I think maybe this transit is the transit Jupiter in Capricorn, making the opposition to the Mercury in the United States natal Mercury in Cancer. And Mercury in Cancer can also manifest in rather irrational thinking. You have the zodiac sign Cancer, which some might feel is unequivocally the most emotional. It may actually be Pisces, but the zodiac sign Cancer is associated with the emotions, and you're having more irrational thinking oppose the enlargement, the emphasis perhaps on what should be rational. Jupiter, as I've stated in previous videos, can be very paradoxical, could be very benign and benevolent, but it could also have that propensity or tendency to enlarge and expand. And in some cases, this could be trying to really about the expansion of what should be rational at this point in time. Capricorn is rational. The zodiac sign Cancer sadly is not. That's why you're having this adversarial energy going around right now as far as the United States chart. The chart goes, as far as the transits going to the United States natal placements. So anyway, well, another thing I wanted to say is that if I remember right, the United States has a preponderance of its major astro influences in cardinal signs, and the United States is actually very action oriented, very energy oriented, and what it makes it a little surprising as to why the United States is having trouble taking the real forceful action to get this thing actually contained. But the thing about it is, I think a lot of that has to do with is the fact the United States also wants to always to be doing things, and they don't want to be, people don't want to be cooped up and confined or isolated or become reclusive for a prolonged period. You also have the United States in the Sagittarius rising chart. The majority of the planets are on the right half of the chart, which indicates more dependency on others in contrast to self-reliance. It's really, I think sometimes the United States sadly might need a little cajoling from others to get things done. What modifies that, of course, is a lot of that cardinal energy that the United States has, which of course could be very action-oriented and wanting to stay busy more as opposed to actually being stagnant or idle. So, and another thing I noticed too in the United States chart is that the singleton, there's a singleton planet, the moon in Aquarius. It's the only planet that is in a fixed sign in the United States chart. And because of that, I think, when you're talking about singletons in astrology, there could be more emphasis and more significance on it and may stand out more being a singleton. The United States having that, you're talking about the moon, moon being in Aquarius. This could be energy the United States might feel like they're compelled to keep going back to. It could be matters like the emotional need for social media, social networking, and just networking in general with their friends, with their acquaintances, being involved in groups and clubs and organizations. And I think that's part of the reason, too, the United States may be having tremendous difficulty in terms of really getting away, extricating themselves from this sad advancement and escalation of the coronavirus pandemic. Anyway, people, really not much more to say on this. I think the reality is the United States may not get a real hold on this until transit Pluto, not only until it might go not even just direct, but until perhaps it really makes the tight conjunction to the United States natal Pluto, because that could be an indicator of getting more of a control on a virus. So anyway, people, That'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.